The shocking truth about cannibals in the cave, haunting tales at midnight. As the clock struck midnight, whispers filled the air with dread. They spoke of horrors lurking deep in the shadowy caves that lined the mountains like dark, gaping mouths. For years, locals had traded stories of cannibals' figures cloaked in fear and mystery, rumored to be waiting for the next unwitting traveler to stumble in. Their piercing eyes flashed in the flickering torchlight. Some said you could hear the distant sound of eerie laughter echoing through the mountains, an unsettling reminder that something sinister was always just out of reach. On one particularly cold night, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decay, David stood outside the entrance of Black Hollow Cave, his heart racing. He had heard the tales too, how adventurous explorers had entered, never to return. Legends spoke of bones scattered like breadcrumbs, of how the darkness seemed to breathe, hungry and alive. As he stepped closer, the ground crunched beneath his feet like brittle bones. Was that a low growl he heard? With each breath, his chest tightened. A lump formed in his throat as he recalled the stories of those brave enough to enter. The last to return had spoken of painted faces and guttural chants that echoed long after their footsteps faded. He glanced back at the townsfolk gathered far behind him, their anxious murmurs mixing with the rustling leaves. They shot him wary glances, eyes wide with fear. He was a fool, they thought, a lost soul ready to test fate. Maybe I should just turn back. David thought, but curiosity consumed him. He could feel the very stone of the cave calling out, the chill wrapping around him like fingers urging him forward. Just then, a shadow flitted past the entrance, quick as a heartbeat. The townsfolk gasped. David felt a shiver race down his spine, and a voice in his mind screamed for him to run, but there he stood, rooted by a mix of terror and intrigue. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the wind howled, David took a step inside, the darkness swallowing him whole. His heart pounded against his ribs like a frantic drum as the chill seeped into his bones. Suddenly, he heard a low, menacing growl that reverberated off the cave walls, sending panic washing over him like ice-cold water. Was it just his imagination? No, it felt real, alive, and hungry. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Something shifted in the shadows. He wasn't alone. A sliver of hope battled his fear as he wondered what could he discover in the depths of Black Hollow. But as the echo of laughter filled the cave, he couldn't shake the feeling that the walls whispered secrets that were never meant to be found. Darkness enveloped David like a thick fog, heavy and suffocating. He strained to see, his hands trembling as he fumbled for the flashlight tucked in his pocket. The slight click brought a narrow beam of light to life, cutting through the blackness, but it felt more like a fragile candle flickering in a storm. His pulse thundered in his ears as he pressed deeper into the cave. Stalagmites loomed like menacing sentinels, their jagged outlines clawing at the edges of his vision. The growl grew louder, reverberating off the walls, setting his nerves on edge. David swallowed hard. Was he really prepared for what lay ahead? Suddenly, the laughter returned, sharp and jarring, slicing through the tense silence. It was a sound he could almost taste, bitter and metallic. Panic surged through him again, making him wonder whether he should bolt back to the safety of the mouth of the cave. Yet, that damn curiosity held him tight, weaving roots through his feet. He took a step forward, careful to avoid the slick, uneven stones. Shadows danced across the walls, making it hard to tell where one ended and another began. Every instinct told him to turn back, but his mind raced with the stories he'd heard, those tales of the lost explorers, of painted faces and drumming chants. What had they seen? Was there a twisted reality behind the tales, or were they simply figments of the town's darkest fears, swirling together in fear-fed fantasies? As he ventured deeper, a flicker of movement caught his eye. He turned sharply, shining the flashlight towards the source, sweat beading on his brow. There, fleeting within the darkness, was a figure. His heart drummed a frantic rhythm. "Hello?" he called, his voice echoing off the damp walls, sounding weak even to his own ears. "Nothing." Heart racing, he stepped further into the ancient quiet, trying to shake off the tightening knot in his stomach. Just then, a scraping sound pierced the stillness, claws against stone. David's blood ran cold. He barely dared to breathe as the sound grew louder, sharper. Whatever it was coming closer. Desperate, he willed himself to move, inching cautiously down the narrow corridor. Each step felt like a betrayal of his instinct to flee. But he was here now, he couldn't turn back without knowing. He had to face whatever lurked just beyond the threshold of the light and the legends that promised unimaginable horrors. A sudden crash echoed from deeper within the cave, sending rocks tumbling and dust cascading down like snowflakes. "No, no, no!" David whispered, panic gripping him. He shone the light towards the sound, its beam trembling as the shadows twisted and danced in response. That's when he saw it, a glimpse of something large, dark, and menacing darting between the boulders in the distance. A figure, grotesque and humanoid, its twisted frame painted with a mix of shadows and the dim light of his flashlight. His breath caught. This was it. The stories weren't just stories anymore. He had stepped into a reality veiled in fear, a reality where the unspeakable lived. David's mind raced with questions, but as he gathered the courage to call out once more, the laughter enveloped him, echoing through Black Hollow, taunting, urging, pulling him deeper. He turned, heart pounding, prepared to run. But then, a chilling thought sunk into his mind: if he fled, would the darkness claim him too? And as the figure stepped fully into the light, frozen terror seized him as he realized the truth. It was not just a tale of cannibals but a revelation of the darkness within. What had David really stumbled into? The air thickened with dread as he stood frozen. Shadows closed in. Could he still escape, or had he already sealed his fate? David felt his heart race like a startled rabbit, trapped in the gaze of the predator before him. The creature stood there, caught in his flashlight's beam, its body grotesque, seemingly pieced together from the dark itself. Skin stretched tight over sharp bones, it glared at him with hollow eyes that glowed dimly, reflecting the light like twin lanterns in a storm. Time slowed. David's mind screamed for him to run, but his body refused to budge, anchored to the stone floor by a paralyzing mix of fear and amazement. The laughter returned, even more chilling now, echoing through the darkness as if the walls themselves joined in mocking him. "Why are you here?" a voice whispered, almost soft, riding on the tendrils of laughter. It wasn't just coming from the creature, it was everywhere, penetrating the very core of his being. "Haven't you heard the tales? This is our home." "Why you real?" he stammered, forcing the words out, though his throat felt tightly constricted. "Real enough for you." The creature's lips twisted into a smile that was all rotting teeth and malice. It stepped forward, dragging a foot that left a trail of filth and decay. A groan escaped from the cave's depths, causing David to flinch, his instincts screaming that whatever lurked behind him could sense his fear. "Not alone, never alone," the creature croaked, and in that moment, David understood the horror embedded in the stories. This wasn't just a tale of cannibals, it was a legacy of survival, twisted by desperation and dark magic. He remembered the legends told by the townsfolk around fires, a starving tribe that lost its way, their hunger turning into something far more sinister. They had become monsters, sacrificing their souls for the sweet taste of flesh. Was this what happened in this cave? Had he just walked into a trap laid by these cursed souls? The laughter escalated, pulsating like a heartbeat reverberating through the damp walls of the cave. David took a shaky step back, voice trembling. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I just curiosity." The creature interrupted, its grin widening. "Curiosity brought you here to us. And now, the darkness waits. You can't escape it." In that moment, David felt warmth trickle down his spine, licking at the edges of his fear. He was trapped, losing himself in this abyss of shadows and madness. Every instinct told him to turn and run, yet the siren call of understanding tugged at him, unwilling to let go. "What do you want?" he finally managed, his voice laced with anger and desperation. "Want?" The creature's eyes flickered with a strange hunger, a yearning. "We want what we lost, the taste of the living. But we're willing to share if you can survive the night." As it stepped closer, David caught a glimpse of movement behind it, dark shapes converging, whispering the same invitation, the same threat. Panic surged through him. He had only moments to choose, flee, and risk being consumed by the shadows. Or stay and join the ranks of legends, woven into the very fabric of fear that held this cave together. In a voice barely above a whisper, he uttered the question that drowned in terror. "What happens if I refuse?" The creatures paused, their eyes glinting with delight. Laughter echoed off the walls, a mocking chorus that wrapped around him like a noose. "We'll show you." And just like that, paths have split, decisions sowed seeds of fate, and David took a breath filled with dread. He sprinted back, heart pounding, but just as he turned, the ground trembled beneath him. What awaited him in the dimness ahead? He couldn't stop now, he was in too deep. But with every step, the shadows grew thicker, teasing him with the taste of darkness. Could he outrun not just the creatures, but the darkness that resided within himself? The walls closed in, but a flicker of defiance sparked in his heart. No matter the outcome, he would face the truth, whatever it may be. But as he dashed further, a horrifying realization struck him: the laughter wasn't just behind him. It was all around, an enveloping darkness, eager to receive him into its chilling embrace. He could feel the shadows pressing against him, a cold whisper clawing at the edges of his sanity. Each footfall echoed like a heartbeat, relentless and heavy. The feeling of being hunted ignited adrenaline, propelling him forward despite the weight of despair sinking deep in his chest. "Not alone, never alone," the creature's voice taunted him, growing fainter yet echoing from myriad points in the darkness. David's breath came in short gasps, his lungs pushing hard against the rising panic. He realized the truth, an undeniable fact: every creature drawn to him was once human, breathing the same air as he did. It made him shudder. They were more than monsters, they were tragic remnants of despair. The beam of his flashlight flickered, casting strange shadows along the jagged walls, displaying visions of flickering faces caught in expressions of eternal hunger. He stumbled forward, his heart in his throat, fighting to keep his footing as visions of futility twisted through his mind. These darker souls were not only pursuing him, they were reflections of what he could become if he didn't find a way out. An unyielding roar of laughter rolled through the cave, resonating with cruel joy. It surged around him, filling his ears and drowning out reason. David pressed on, desperate for an escape, but the shifting ground beneath him betrayed him. A sudden lurch sent him sprawling onto the damp floor. "Stay with us, David." The disembodied words floated through the dark, teasing him with morbid promises. "It's not too late." Crawling on all fours, he fought against the panic clawing at his throat, the darkness tantalizing him, daring him to surrender. He shook his head, anger bursting through his fear. "No." The single word rang out, defiant and raw. With a surge of will, he staggered to his feet. David didn't look back. He couldn't. The silhouettes shifted and advanced, the hollow eyes glimmering, hungry for despair. Sweat trickled down his back as he sprinted through the black, knowing they would be right on his heels. The walls felt closer now, almost squeezing the breath from his lungs as he zigzagged through them, searching for an escape. Suddenly, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness, a small crack in the wall ahead. Hope ignited within him. He dashed toward it, desperate to reach the sanctuary it promised. But as he approached, the shadows cascaded over him, arms of darkness ready to pull him back. "No. I refuse," he bellowed, more resolute than ever. He fought against the pull, a wild resistance blooming inside him. The laughter stilled, replaced by a sinister silence, like a predator assessing its prey. The shadows flickered, and he darted past the crack, bursting through the opening into a cavernous space beyond. A cold breeze brushed his skin, he shivered, the air tasting like regret. David paused, gasping for breath, scanning the new chamber. Illuminated by an eerie phosphorescent glow that pulsed like a heartbeat, the scene before him was hauntingly beautiful yet horrific. Bodies lay entwined in grotesque positions, their faces forever twisted in the agony of choice. Each figure appeared as if suspended between life and death, beckoning to him. What is this? He breathed, a sense of disbelief washing over him. Were these the lost souls of the cave, caught in their torment? He staggered back, almost tripping over a grisly hand that reached for him like a desperate plea. "Welcome to your fate," a female voice whispered, soft yet filled with a painful wisdom. "You can join us or become one of them." His heart raced anew. How could he escape this tide of despair? He clutched his flashlight tighter, the beam wavering in his trembling hand. Every person here had faced the same choice he now faced. Would he give in to fear, to the darkness, or choose to fight against it? But then he realized, a deeper shadow loomed. The laughter returned, rising around him again, clinging to the rim of his consciousness. They were still with him, lurking, watching. Could he face the haunted figures of his own demise, or would the darkness finally claim him? The choices multiplied as the shadows around him began to swirl, beckoning him toward the nightmares of his own making. And as he took another step forward, he had to ask himself, was there still a way back? Or was this cave destined to be his permanent home, where darkness feasted on the living? His breath hitched. With every heartbeat, David felt the walls of fate closing in, each decision now tinged with a desperate finality. The soft, wet sounds of breathing filled the air, a thousand whispers crawling beneath his skin. David felt each inhale ripple through the cavern, as if the very stones were alive, exchanging secrets in an ancient tongue. He shivered, the chill gripping him tighter, the shadows from the figures now shifting before him, their hollow eyes boring into his soul. Fate? He gasped, every word a struggle against the tightening fear in his chest. This can't be my fate. I won't end up like them. The figures, lost in their dance of torment, turned their gazes towards him, as if acknowledging his defiance. A heartbeat echoed in the silence, and he felt it pulse through the ground beneath him, drawing him closer to those grotesque forms. Their twisted mouths opened, the silent screams climbing up David's spine like icy fingers. "Is this where I find my answers?" he murmured, his mind racing. "Is this where I buckle under the weight of despair? You seek the truth?" The soft voice echoed again, almost playful now. "Oh, David, truth is a curious thing. It binds you and frees you at the same time." His flashlight flickered wildly, illuminating the faces of the damned that stared back at him, expressions casting blame and despair in equal measure. What had they done to deserve this? Was he headed down the same path? He took a shaky step backward, heart hammering wildly as an angry, piercing scream rang out from the depths of the cave, bouncing off the walls like a vengeful specter. "Leave now. Leave before it's too late." Confusion gripped him. Would he heed the warning of the shadows or dismiss their cries as the last gasps of those trapped in the darkness? The phosphorescent light pulsed faster, and the air thickened, wrapping around him like a serpent. "Do you wish to join us?" A voice chimed from the depths of the crowd. "To embrace your despair, the truth in your heart? It's the only refuge." "No. I refuse to be part of this nightmare," David shouted, passion igniting within him as he turned. The figures made a small space for him, watching, calculating. "I still can fight back." The cave echoed back his defiance, the shadows swirling violently around him as laughter erupted once more, loud and mocking. He swung the flashlight, its beam slicing through the dark, illuminating others who mirrored his fight. "Help me!" he yelled, desperation igniting his plea like fireworks in the night sky. "We don't have to succumb to this. Fight it." With each call, the figures seemed to flinch, as if his words carved through their haze of despair. A flicker of hope ignited in their eyes, each one struggling against the invisible chains that bound them. But then the ground beneath him shook, and the chains from the shadows tightened, pulling David backward. "You are still trapped in this choice, David," the voice sang. "Will you stand against your own darkness, or embrace what you truly are?" His breath caught again, the weight of the moment looming large. The cave moaned, the oppressive darkness filling his senses. Shadows twisted, snarling. He could feel the pressure rising, blurring his resolve. The chilling silence returned, thick enough to choke on. A sudden gust of air swept through the chamber, like a hand, beckoning him toward the darkness. "You can't win, David," and then, just as quickly, the wind was gone, leaving nothing but echoes in its wake. The figures closed in again, their twisted expressions haunting him, as if they were waiting to see whether he would fall. Doubt clawed at him. What was he fighting against? Could he really turn the tables on despair? The laughter faded, replaced by heavy silence, as he stood at a precipice caught between darkness and fighting for the light, but then something caught his eye. Just beyond the last body, a shimmering, vibrant light pulsated softly, blue and inviting. It felt warm, like hope spreading through his veins. Could he really reach it? As he wavered, the shadows began to close in again, threatening to engulf him, to drown out his fight. Would he dare to leap toward the light, or would he be lost in the arms of his own despair? David inhaled deeply, weighing the risks with every passing second, aware that one moment could determine his entire existence. The pressure mounted, his heart raced, and he took a step forward, but would it be into light or darkness? David felt every heartbeat pounding in his ears as he stood there, torn between despair and hope. The shadows encroached around him, a swirling mass of lost souls, their anguished faces twisted in grotesque beauty. His instincts screamed at him to flee, yet the vibrant blue light shimmered like a beacon, teasing him with promises of salvation. In that moment, something shifted. The laughter that echoed through the cavern began to fade, replaced by hushed whispers that slithered against his skin. Words swirled around him, indecipherable yet insistent, colliding with the pulse of fear thrumming in his chest. "What are you guarding?" he shouted into the darkness. The moment hung suspended, his breath caught in a painful tightness as if the cavern itself was holding its own breath. Then, suddenly, the sound of an anguished wail erupted from behind him, a voice so raw it felt like a knife cutting through the heavy veil of silence. "Get away. You don't understand." Spirals of dread curled in his gut. He turned to face the source, and his eyes widened as he spotted a figure emerging from the writhing darkness, a woman, not much older than himself, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Her limbs were chained, heavy links that clattered ominously as she stumbled toward him. "Please," she pleaded, eyes wide and wild. "They'll take you. They'll take everything. Don't trust the light." David's heart twisted painfully. The light seemed to shimmer more brightly, as if acknowledging him, tempting him to take that leap of faith. But her terrified gaze pulled at him, anchoring him to the reality of pain and struggle. "What do you know?" he yelled at her. "What are they? What's in the light?" She choked on her fear and desperation. "The light isn't salvation. It's a trap. They'll lure you in and then you'll become like us." A cold wave of realization washed over him. The sounds in the cave echoed not just with dread, but with a horrid history of despair. Were they not just spirits of the damned? Were they, in fact, the remnants of lost souls who had ventured too close to that damned light? David took a heavy breath, forcing his voice to steady. "I can't just turn away. I need to know the truth, my truth. Then you'll die trying," she cried, and the shadows surged, forming jagged teeth and cruel faces. David felt a sharp jolt in his spine, the shadows clawing at his resolve, urging him back. With a surge of defiance, he turned to the woman. "Help me. We can break this together." For a moment, her fear seemed to fade, replaced by a flicker of determination. She nodded, albeit skeptically, and they moved closer to each other. The shadows hissed in protest, the chains rattling louder as if they sensed newfound resistance forming. Together, they screamed into the dark abyss. "We won, TB shadows. We won, TB lost to despair." The cavern shook violently, the walls trembling, and the laughter morphed into a cacophony of shrieks. The figures around them writhed in agony. David felt the heat of the blue light growing stronger, pressing against him as if trying to fuse with his very essence. The woman's voice broke through the chaos, intense and cutting. "We need to find the source. The chains feed this darkness." His resolve sparked. "Then let us shatter it." David took her hand, gripping it tightly as they surged towards the pulsing light. The shadows screamed, furious at their combined defiance. But the light felt warm against his skin, promising hope, a delicious taste of freedom. Yet, as they plunged forward, everything around them trembled. The walls of the cavern creaked and groaned, spilling flickers of light through the cracks. Just ahead, shadows knotted together, trying to weave a barrier. With renewed vigor, David and the woman pushed through, fueled by a raw certainty that they could break the chains together, but then a deep rumbling enveloped them. The ground shook violently, and he feared they might be swallowed whole. "Hold on!" David shouted, as they raced toward the light. Was this their escape or another snare? Would they emerge unscathed, or would the shadows pull them deeper into the abyss? The ground bucked beneath them, and David gasped, his heart racing with each violent tremor. Dust and tiny shards of rock rained down from the cavern ceiling as the walls seemed to close in the darkness, twisting tighter, like a predator tightening its grip on prey. "Keep moving." The woman gasped, urgency filling her voice. The blue light pulsed ahead, a heartbeat of hope in that suffocating darkness. David's legs felt heavy, but he pushed through, clutching her hand as they raced toward what felt like their last chance for survival. But just as they thought they could break free, the shadows writhed violently, coiling around them like serpents. David could see the fear in her eyes mirrored in the swirling faces of the lost souls around them. The ghastly forms twisted and lunged, clawing at their ankles, seeking to drag them back into despair. "We can't," David hissed, glancing back at the snarling darkness. "We can't let them win. We need to reach the light. We must believe it's the source." She shouted, pulling him closer, their fingers interlocking tightly as they charged forward. With every step, the heat of the light surged, warming David's skin, contrasting with the oppressive chill of the shadows that hungered for them. As they pressed on, bursts of laughter erupted again, echoing mockingly through the cavern. It stung his ears, a chaotic symphony of madness that throbbed in his skull. "Why won't it stop?" David yelled over the noise, desperation clawing at him. "What do they want?" "Fear." She screamed, her voice raw, filled with rage and defiance. "They thrive on it. The more afraid we are, the stronger they become." A flicker of determination ignited inside David. He refused to be just another soul consumed by this place. "Then we'll show them," he shouted, drowning the laughter with their combined resolve. "We're not afraid." And as if in response, the blue light flared brightly, casting a pure glow across the cavern's walls. The shadows faltered, hesitation flickering in their abhorrent forms. This was the moment to strike, to embody the very defiance they preached. Ahead, the light surged, wrapping around them like a protective cocoon. David felt its warmth chasing the cold dread away, erasing the clammy grip of despair. The chains binding the woman rattled furiously, almost as if sensing their impending liberation. "Now!" David yelled, gritting his teeth as he plunged into the light. The shadows shrieked, their anguished wails echoing in protest, but he refused to look back. The moment they crossed the threshold, a shock wave crashed over them. David was nearly knocked off his feet, the light exploding in a brilliant cascade, washing over everything, every inch of darkness straining against its brilliance. Yet, as they tumbled into the center, a chilling realization clawed at David's heart. This brightness wasn't merely a sanctuary, it was the climax of their suffering, a fateful revelation held deep within the light. Suddenly, the laughter transformed into cries of realization, voices that resonated with bitterness. David felt a pull, a gravitational force drawing him toward a figure nestled within the core of light. The unmistakable face of someone once lost, someone who belonged there, but not like this. His breath hitched. No, it can't be. The shadows still roamed around them, furious and unrelenting, but now there was a darkness hidden behind the glimmering facade, a sinister truth that beckoned him forward. He could feel the woman beside him, her grip tightening as she too sensed the menace hidden under layers of light. "What are you seeing?" she gasped, peering into the blinding radiance. His heart raced as he struggled to comprehend what lay ahead. I think it's time we find out, would the truth unearth a more harrowing fate? Or was this the revelation that could set them free? The echo of their fear hung palpable in the air, mingling with the light's allure. The uncertainty lingered, thick and suffocating, as David took a single step forward. What awaited them beyond that brilliant glow, and could they withstand the haunting truth that shattered their hopes? The blinding light inhaled around them, swallowing their fears but exhaling the aroma of dread. David's heart fluttered like a trapped bird. The face at the center, could it really be? I know her, he stammered, disbelief strangling his words. Each flicker of the light exposed new horrors in its brilliance, revealing shadows that twisted around a familiar figure, a woman swathed in luminous threads. She held an ethereal beauty, yet there was something chilling about her presence that gnawed at his gut. "It's Elise," he whispered, incredulity and dread colliding in his throat. "Who?" The woman at David's side pressed, eyes wide, unable to distinguish the palpable fear creeping along the edges of his voice. "Elise, my sister." David's heart sank even deeper. She had vanished years ago, swallowed into the darkness of their past. He had never stopped searching, the haunting loss festering inside him like an open wound. Suddenly, a cacophony of voices clashed against the shimmering oasis, rising and crashing like waves. "You should have joined us," they screamed, tauntingly. "The darkness welcomes you, David." Elise stepped forward, her face slipping into an unsettling smile. "I've found peace here, David. The darkness, it feeds, but it also nurtures. Come. It will ease your pain." "No. You can't mean that," David shouted, stepping back instinctively. He could feel the shadows solidifying, a dark tide rising behind him, threatening to pull him under. "Don't be afraid." Elise's voice caressed him like the softest lullaby. "Here, we're all together. We're whole. Not if you're trapped," the woman beside him declared, her voice fierce, reminding him of the urgency. "She's not who you remember, David. Don't let her trick you." But David struggled to break away from the magnetic pull of Elise's shimmering form. "What are you? You vanished." His breath stuttered. "You just disappeared." "I was never lost," she said, her light flickering dangerously. "I was taken by the dark, but the dark can give too. It can heal wounds that light cannot touch." "No!" David yelled, shoving against the coils of shadow inching toward him. His grip on the woman tightened as panic surged in his veins. "This isn't healing. This is bondage." But Elise only smiled wider, her figure shifting and becoming less tangible, more ghostly. "You will understand soon. Embrace it, brother, join us." David could feel his sister slipping from him, unraveling like threads from her once solid form. The blue light pulsed angrily, an animal haunted by memories and fears alive within it. The woman's voice broke through the mounting chaos. "We can't let her take you. She's a part of the darkness now. Fight it, David. Fight it? What if she's right?" he questioned, doubt threatening to smother him. His heart was torn between the sister he longed for and the reality gnawing at him. The shadows around him lurked hungrily, sensing his faltering will. "What if I'm wrong?" he whispered, staring into the void of the luminous light that twisted and beckoned. "No, you have control. They want to trick you into believing you don't," the woman urged, her eyes fierce and unwavering. "Remember who you are. Remember us." The figure swooped closer, chasing David and the woman further toward the brink. The darkness howled, reaching out with clawed hands, but now it felt frantic, desperate. The haunting melody of Elise's voice echoed within the chamber, a siren call laced with despair. "You can't escape, brother. But I can help you. All you have to do is believe." David's chest tightened with the weight of choice, with the knowledge that crossing over wouldn't just mean leaving the past behind. It meant letting part of himself be consumed, irrevocably altered. "David!" The woman called again, dragging him back from that shimmering edge. "The truth isn't in the dark. Look beyond the light. Find what we lost." But would he be able to resist the seductive call of might have been? Would he turn his back on family, on hope, on everything he'd fought for? And just as he thought he could break free, a shadow lunged at him, snaring his ankle in. A cold grip that sent ice coursing through his veins. "Remember who you are." The thunderous echoes drowned out another cry of despair. What lay waiting for him just beyond that unbearable brightness? As the darkness wrestled with light, David had mere moments to choose, but fate pitilessly loomed. The choice never felt so daunting. What haunting truth awaited beyond that alluring facade, ready to entrap or liberate him forever? As the shadow tightened its grip on David's ankle, a piercing frost coursed through him, igniting a primal instinct to fight. He struggled against the chilling tendrils, twisting to free himself from their icy clutches. His fierce gaze shot back to the shimmering form of Elise, still smiling that melancholic smile. "You can't let her take you." The woman beside him cried out, her voice wavering under the weight of urgency. "Don't let the dark win." David swallowed hard, the echoes of the voices surrounding him crashing against his resolve. "Elise, I've searched for you. I thought you'd never be lost." "David," she cooed, her voice smooth like silk but stained with something sinister. "I'm right here. All you need to do is let go of your fear." But fear had clung to David like a second skin. It was a part of him, rooted deep in the marrow of his bones. "No. You're not my sister anymore." David shouted, his own voice surprising him with its strength. The darkness grimaced, the shadows howling in rage, lashing out like a tempest. The tendrils twisted around him, alive and furious, hungry for his will, for his soul. David felt them tugging, pulling him closer to the edge, where the light beckoned with sinister allure. The woman tightened her grip on David's arm, her presence a lighthouse in the consuming fog. "Focus on me, David. Remember your childhood, our games, your dreams. What did we always say?" Her face was fierce with determination, and David searched her eyes, grasping the shards of precious memories. They had been shared laughter and innocence, years before the loss had shattered him. "We said we would always find each other," he cried, igniting that long-buried flame of hope. Elise's expression shifted. The smile faltered, her form flickering. "You're a fool to believe you can escape this," she hissed, shadows dancing in a chaotic frenzy about her. The sweetness of her voice twisted, revealing a venomous undertone. "The darkness is stronger than any bond. Join me, David." "No. You are lying," he retorted, tugging wildly against the shadow's hold, each movement igniting swirling memories, a childhood spent in the sun, laughter at the beach, family dinners. In those flashes of light amidst the encroaching dark, the scariest thought crawled into David's mind: what if Elise was right? What if the darkness offered something he desperately needed? "Trust me." The woman's words snapped him back. "What you seek is not here. You need to break the chains of this illusion." With a deep breath, David steeled himself, envisioning that connection they once held, an invincible bond strong enough to traverse the abyss. He focused on that fierce light within him, the fierce refusal to be consumed. "Get out! Get out!" he yelled, instinctively tearing himself away from the dark grasp pulling tight around his ankle. The shadows flared, screeching in agony, retreating momentarily as he felt the binding slowly loosen. Elise's face darkened, outrage transforming her serene visage. "You think you can defy me?" she screeched, claws extending, becoming grotesque against the backdrop of the shimmering light. In that chaos, David's heart thrummed wildly. Each beat strengthened his resolve, he would not let fear consume him. With a final twist, he broke free, breaking the surface of the darkness. Stumbling forward, he planted his feet on solid ground. But just as he turned to help the woman escape, another wave of shadows surged, crashing over them. "Elise!" he shouted, as her piercing cry rang against the destructive roar of the darkness. "You can't take her. Fight it." Her cries echoed back, taunting him, a malicious wind spinning around them. "I was never a victim, David. Soon you will come to understand." The echoes of despair washed over him. David's heart raced as he scrambled to reach the woman, shadows curling at his heels. "What next?" she breathed, her face drawn in fear as the darkness prepared for another strike. Would he have the strength to resist the pull of the abyss? As the dark wave charged forward, David could only wonder what lay ahead. And with a sudden crack, choiceless and terrifying, the light shattered, splattering radiant pieces of their nightmare across the void. What horrifying revelation awaited in the shifting shadows, ready to redefine their battle forever? David stood shaking, staring at the fractured pieces of light scattered before him like shards of glass. The echoes of laughter morphed into a haunting wail, contorting the shadows that clung to every surface. He felt a rush of uncertainty but refused to crumble. The sacrifice of so many souls weighed heavily on his shoulders, and he wouldn't let them go down in vain. "Stay strong," he urged the woman beside him, her features etched with fear. "We can't give in now." They shared a brief glance, and in that moment, a flicker of understanding passed between them. They were both survivors. Together, they could face the darkness threatening to engulf them. The grotesque shadows writhed at the edges of their vision, their whispers angry and insistent, but something about the scattered light seemed to weaken the grip of the abyss. "Can you feel it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The light, it's calling us back. I want to go." David shouted defiantly, planting his feet firmly. "We just need to face it together." The shadows snarled, a chorus of discordant cries rising in fury. They struck like a tempest, crawling toward David and the woman, fingers of negation clawing at their will. But David pressed on, digging deep into memories of warmth, laughter, and hope. He thought of all the life he had lived outside this cursed cave, the family that loved him, the friends that laughed with him. "Remember the stories around the campfire?" he shouted, feeling strength surge within him. The tales didn't end in darkness. They ended in triumph. With every word, the light dusted the air around them, scattering the encroaching shadows momentarily. He reached forward, grasping the woman's hand, their palms clasping tight. "Together, we will overcome this. Do you think you can defeat the dark?" Elise's voice rang out, no longer sweet but laced with malice, drowning David in bitterness. "You cannot escape your fate." Elise's ghostly form loomed closer, a wicked smile twisting her features like a bramble of thorns. The lights that had once offered solace now twisted, morphing into echoes of sorrow and loss. "Fight it, David!" the woman cried, squeezing his hand tightly. "Fight for your truth." Determination ignited within him. David took a step forward, then another, his heart galloping against his ribs as he faced the oncoming storm of darkness. "I refuse to let you dictate my fate," he shouted, voice strong against the chaos. "Light is an illusion." Elise screeched, shadows dancing around her, forming grotesque shapes of despair. But he could see through her lies. The blue light pulsed a heartbeat of warmth amidst the shadows, and David understood it was not escape that awaited him in the light, it was freedom from the binds of hopelessness and fear. He pulled the woman close, their surroundings erupting in a chaotic blend of shadows and flickers of light. Let us break the cycle. Together. As they plunged deeper into the light, David felt a rush of warmth envelop him, fleeting but exhilarating. The shadows accelerated, screeching, attempting to pull him back into their clutches, but he didn't falter. He concentrated on the memories of laughter and love, forging them into a shield against the impending darkness. The moment their feet touched the surface of the shimmering light, an earthquake of raw energy cascaded through them. The silhouettes of the damned hissed and recoiled as the brilliance surged, overwhelming their form, twisting the air around them into a pulsating wave of defiance. "This is who we are," he cried, emboldened by the rising aura surrounding them. "We choose to fight back." Elise screamed, her visage contorting in rage as the shadows flew around, desperate and frantic. For David, each breath fueled his resolve. He would not be swayed by the darkness or by the phantom of his lost sister. "We are not just ghosts of despair," he shouted passionately. Then, with a force unparalleled, the blue light exploded, cascading rays like fireworks through the cavern. The laughter transformed into an anguished wail, echoing off the walls like a ghostly farewell. David and the woman surged forward, understanding now that they were not just battling shadows. They were reclaiming lost hope, shattering the chains that bound the cursed souls within this cave. As the brilliance overtook them, David felt the chains of despair dissolve. The shadows receded, screeching as they vanished, the grip of darkness lessened with every pulse of hope they radiated. And in that cathartic surge, David's heart felt lightened, freeing him from the abyss of hesitation. With each breath drawn in the light, the feeling of confinement dissipated. The whispers of the lost souls transformed into echoes of celebration. They were finally set free, liberated from the darkness that thrilled upon fear. As the chamber filled with blinding radiance, David glanced at the woman beside him. They had faced hell, battled the darkness, and through their fight, they discovered a spark that transcended despair. Their destinies wove together as they stepped from the edge of blue light into the dawning realm of safety. Together, they had emerged, raw with survival, richer in experience, unfettered by the chains that had once bound them. As the light faded into the morning, David knew one thing for certain: fear had no dominion over him anymore. With a promise to never forget, he turned to the horizon where hope shimmered against the morning sky, filled with the warmth of a new day, and as he stepped forward, he whispered aloud the words that had become the anthem of his rebirth: "We will always find each other." Because in the end, they had defeated the shadows together. Now, if you're feeling the intensity of this story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And do it all, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful closure. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.